The oversimplified cinematic universe almost got me in a little bit of trouble, friends. I was getting ready to do the Napoleonic Wars, and then I saw you reminding me that I gotta start with the French Revolution first. So that's where we're gonna kick things off today. Welcome back, friends, and a special welcome to all the new friends out there. I'm YoBGS, and yeah, a special shout out to the ones who let me know in the comments that if I don't watch the French Revolution before the Napoleonic Wars, I'm gonna be very confused. So that influenced today what we do in a big way. By the way, for the history buffs out there, I've got a couple Country Balls videos in the works that I'm gonna put out in the next couple days. I'm hoping you'll like those. And if you like these oversimplified videos, make sure to subscribe. It's no surprise, I kind of go for my videos based off of which ones are bringing in some new people. So if you dig what I'm doing, you gotta make sure to subscribe, leave a comment down below, let me know to keep at it. All right, we're starting out today with the royal wedding between Prince Louis Capet and Marie Antoinette. I'm digging the rhyming names, I'll start there.
So I said to the Marquis de la Fufayette, "What do you think I am? Some dirty peasant? I've never worked a day in my life."
Alright, I'm already digging this video because 2 seconds in we've got which is the most genuinely happy face in the world. And it's interesting because I remember in the American Revolution videos, they were talking about, once America got free, that was when the French people decided that they could become free too. So it is all tying together.
Wow, that Marie Antoinette sure is pretty. Sure is. Wouldn't want to be Prince Louis though. That's going to be a lot of responsibility when he becomes king, especially since France is in financial ruin. Quite. Thank you one and all for attending the royal marriage of my grandson, the future King of France, to the Archduchess of Austria. Now for the very awkward yet historically accurate part of the ceremony, where we all watch them get into bed together.
What? First of all, this ostrich is scaring me. Second of all, I forgot that is a historic tradition, and it's a very PC way of phrasing things about what their allegedness is here.
All right, now that's out of the way, let's leave the royal couple to it. You better give us an heir, you fat, ill-bred boy. Nighty-night.
Okay, so already King Louis not the most sympathetic of figures here.
That's gonna be a lot of responsibility. France is in financial ruin. You fat, ill-bred boy. Quite. That's gonna be a lot of
Quite.
That's gonna be a lot of responsibility. France is in financial ruin. That's gonna be a lot of responsibility. Wow, what a time to hit pause. But this feels very much like the Lisa needs braces, dental plan, voices swirling around Homer's head. Is Oversimplified a Simpsons fan? I'm guessing yes. That's gonna be a lot of responsibility. Oh, great. He's a freaking weirdo.
I mean, first of all, he seemed like a teenager.
France, the most prosperous, cultured, and beautiful nation in the world, as it had been for centuries.
Hey man, look, my dudes and dude identifiers, if this is the standard, we got it. Now we see where Mr. Potato Head came from.
An exquisite social culture, with the king and the upper classes throwing crazy parties every night, enjoying high living and fine dining. Who cares that they were only able to do so off the backs of the hard-working, starving poor? What are they gonna do? Revolt? They're only 80% of the population. No.
And we have the benefit of future vision here, but having watched the Russian Revolution, seeing some similarities
Life
here.
in France is great. What's that, France? You want to go to war with Britain and increase your power? Go for it, little buddy. You do you.
Aw.
And you lost. Now you're in severe financial debt. We have no money. What do? Should we stop partying? Heck no. Party harder.
No, just borrow it from the Rothschilds, I figure. Isn't that what everyone in the world did for centuries, and then they just became like octodrillionaires and live in a mountain somewhere?
That's okay. The peasantry will pick up the slack. They were created by God to do all the work, and you were created to reap all the benefits and party hard. That's just how society works, and we've all just accepted it for centuries.
So the priests are above the nobility, And then there's literally everyone else. But I always find this part of history fascinating because the clergy is above the nobility until the nobility doesn't like being told no. And then that really flips on its head pretty darn quick.
Why? Why what? Why do the nobility get to be all rich and stuff? Just because they were born into it? And the rest of us schmucks just have to accept that? Hell, why do we even need a king? Who decided that? It all just seems very unfair and unequal. And I, for one, am starting to question it.
Okay, first of all, if you have a bottomless mug of beer, then you want for nothing, all right? That should just be a rule of life. If you have a bottomless mug of beer, this guy could just give beer to all of France and he'd be rich.
King, who decided that? It all just seems very unfair and unequal, and I, for one, am starting to question it. Wow, that's very enlightened of you. And so began the Age of Enlightenment. Great philosophical thinkers across France and beyond began to question whether this beautiful nation was really all that beautiful after all.
Aww.
Hey, Prince Louis, bad news. Your grandpop died of smallpox this morning, which means good news, you're now the king. So just to sum up, France is in severe financial debt, and the angry populace are beginning to question how necessary you are. But hey, I believe in you, champ. You got this.
Is he just gonna start spurting blood everywhere?
Maybe.
No, even worse.
Oh no! Prince Louis Capet became King Louis XVI in May 1774. He was a notoriously weak man, and he knew it. He barely had the wisdom to rule a nation, never mind one in crisis, and he was easily manipulated by those around him.
JKLO. Oh my god. This is what they call foreshadowing. Party to forget. God, this one. Dude, tag yourself. We have no money, party to forget.
One of his first acts was to try to get revenge on the British by financing their American colony's revolution. Hey, we're an independent nation now. That was real swell of you, Louis. Couldn't have done it without you. Glad I could help. So hey, about all that money we lent you, when can we get that back? Yep, you're a great guy. I'll never forget what you've done for us. Real glad I could help, friend, but about that money, gotta go now, chum. Best of luck to you.
No!
Oh, no. And now France was in even more debt. France's poor, suffering under the strain of economic ruin, watched as the nobility continued to live as though nothing was wrong. In particular, they grew increasingly disdainful of the Queen, Marie Antoinette, as she continued to spend all of France's money on her own luxurious lifestyle and fashion, while the peasants were...
I mean, she's kind of built and acting like a Kardashian. No? And then you think about 2022, we're all broke. I mean... Well, I'm not broke. I mean, my place does have 4 rooms. I don't mean to brag or anything. I mean to flex, but
own luxurious lifestyle and fashion, while the...
I mean, even right down, like, look.
On her own luxurious...
Even right down to, if this is Kim, this is Chloe, that's an awful... I can't say that. Is my mouse... Oh, no, my mouse is on screen. Oh, you saw that. And here's the thing. I don't know how to edit, and I don't have an editor, so that's just going to stay in the video. Now boy, is my face red.
Lifestyle and fashion, while the peasants were breaking their backs in the fields, she was walking around like, hey, my hair is...
Damn it, this is my worst video so far because I pause every 2 seconds to laugh. But god damn, are you serious? Are you serious with the boat hair?
I'm not making that...
And she even commented on it.
Hey, my hair is a boat. I'm not making that up. Her hair...
You begin to understand why Eat the Rich is a hashtag.
Really was about, and her lavish spending earned her the nickname Madame Deficit. And speaking of the Queen, there was also a long-standing scandal around the fact that the king took a very long time to boink her, and the working classes of Paris began ridiculing the royal couple with lewd pamphlets.
Gotta love the demonetization.
Depicting the Queen as a court thought, and the king as a wuss, unable to fulfill his marital duty. Respect for the monarchy was at an all-time low, as France's finances were spiraling...
Wait, what did it say? Love and Respect featuring Killer Mike?
Was at an all-time low, as France's finances were spiraling out of control, and the king and his aides really only had one solution to the crisis. Tax the poor. Tax the poor. We could do a sexy calendar shoot. Tax the poor.
Nah,
and so it was.
Man.
The poor, who were already struggling to make ends meet, found themselves being taxed from every direction. Hey, I'm the royal tax collector. Looks like you've yet to pay your income tax, head tax. By the way, how many windows you got in that house of yours? 3?
Window tax.
Yeah, there's gonna be a tax for that.
Oh.
Hey, your local priest here. Have you paid your church tithe yet? Well, at least this one is going to the good work of God. Sure. God. I think this year, God wants me to buy a new swimming pool. Hey, private tax collector here. Oh, and I brought some goons with me. Just a few quick questions. How much salt did you buy this year? About 7 kilos, I think? Yep. Okay, there's gonna be a tax for that. Oh, what's that over there? And that's extra salt I held over from last year, so I wouldn't have to buy as much this year.
Oops.
Yep, there's a tax for that. And what are you doing with all this salt? Well, obviously cooking. On the table. Yep. And preserving fish and meat. Oh no. Yep, and there's a tax for that. Hey, how old is he? He's 9. And so he's purchased his required amount of salt for this year, right? What? No, he's 9. Uh-oh. Sorry, little Timmy. Looks like I'm gonna have to tax you for that.
And the sad thing is, like, OverSimplified's videos are so well researched. I believe that all of these are actual taxes that the French were levying at this point. Yeah. Yeah, that seems about right.
Salty. There's going to be a tax for that.
Oh,
and
come
that's not
on!
all. A huge portion of the peasants' harvest had to be given up. And there was also the labor tax, where peasants were required to work a certain number of days for their local lord without pay. Obviously, people weren't too happy with these taxation policies, and the aggressive nature of these private tax farmers sometimes even escalated to violence. In particular, though, the people really hated how inconsistent the taxation rules were across the nation, and also the fact that the first 2 estates often had to pay very little, if any tax at all. And so, the anger continued to grow. France had a population—
Dude, you see so many parallels.
Was just about ready to explode. What could push them over the edge? How about a touch of natural disaster? A series of harsh summers and winters left the peasants' harvests in ruin, meaning they had no food or money, and the cost of bread skyrocketed. Of course, the upper classes had massive stocks of grain and wheat, so they were virtually untouched by this new crisis. But now the poor really were starving, and they began to riot. Women took to the streets. Bakeries were raided.
What was the... Oh, he's underneath a wine barrel. I thought this was his tongue, and I was like, what is this guy doing over here? And they set the recycling on fire.
To riot. Women took to the streets. Bakeries were raided, and bakers suspected of keeping bread for themselves were sometimes even hanged. Wow, this is really getting out of control. Your Majesty, we need some decisive action. You need to step up and lead us. What will you do? Okay, I've got this. I know. I'll summon the Estates General, and they'll decide what to do. You really are a fat, ill-bred boy.
I mean, fat and ill-bred aside, there is value in the world to knowing what you don't know. And on some level, it's almost... Look, I'm not defending Louis XVI. I'm just saying, it's not his fault stupid won the genetic lottery that day. You know what I mean? He knows he's an idiot, so he's having people that may actually have life experience try and figure this out. I'm just saying, delegation is not necessarily a sign of failure.
You really are a fat, ill-bred boy. The Estates General was the closest thing France had to a government, apart from the king. It was a purely advisory body and was rarely summoned. In fact, it hadn't been summoned for 175 years prior to this. But with France in a severe crisis, the king felt the time was right to call on the government to help. The Estates General was made up of representatives from the 3 estates, that is, the clergy, the nobility, and everybody else. Okay. The nobility and every...
I was waiting for him to go... They're made up of all of the estates. That is the clergy, the nobility, and that's it. Because usually that's what you see in the world. Like, right? Like, if you weren't a landowner, you know, you didn't matter. Middle class, urban poor, peasantry, wealthy business owners were down here? God damn.
Everybody else. Okay, thanks for coming, everyone. The first order of business is regarding the clergy and nobility. You all get brand new Porsches. You get a Porsche. And you get a Porsche.
Yeah, boy,
and
Louis.
You get a Porsche. Everybody gets a Porsche. And now into the second order of business. France is completely out of money. Like, it's never been this bad before. Anyone got any ideas? How about we all get Lamborghinis next time? The king
The instantaneous pop of the crowd.
Lamborghinis next time. The king decided that in order to make a decision, they had to come up with a voting system. Okay, the clergy. You have a population of 130,000, so you'll get 1 vote. The nobility. You have a population of 350,000, so you'll also get 1 vote. And the third estate. You have a population of 27 million people and make up 98% of the population. Very impressive. You'll get 1 vote. The third estate were obviously pretty unhappy with this system because
Is it sad? Like, I feel bad because that's 1 more vote than I thought they were gonna get. They're doing a little bit better than some other places around this time because other places don't even get the 1.
Kept on finding that this would happen. We propose to raise taxes on the third estate. All in favor? All opposed? 2 to 1. Taxes will be raised on the third estate. We propose a motion that says the first 2 estates are a bunch of poo-poo heads. All in favor? All opposed? 2 to 1. It's official. We are not poo-poo heads. The third estate realized that any attempt at reform would be outvoted by
God, you said going in, by the way, this was some of OverSimplified's best work, and I have to agree. It's just hilarious. Like, I love to see how OverSimplified has evolved through the different topics that he's covered. And my God, this is just...
upper estates. And they thought that was kind of lame. So they decided that since they were 98% of the population, they could go off to form their own government, make their own laws, and take over the running of the country. And so, the National Assembly was born. The third estate was now in control, and there was nothing the king could do to stop. Haha! I've locked you all out of your building. What are you gonna do about it? We'll probably go find a different building that isn't locked. Oh, no! The National Assembly did find another...
The Strike 3! He really is the Larry David of government.
Another unlocked building. Just down the road, an indoor tennis court. Where on the 20th of June, 1789, they all took the tennis court oath, pledging to continue meeting until the king finally gave in to their demands for more equality and economic reform. This new
how long until the government firebombs that building?
National Assembly included many of the most educated members of the Third Estate, including 2 young lawyers by the names of Maximilien Robespierre and Georges Danton. Some members of the first 2 estates even joined their cause.
The Comte de Mirabeau?
Some members of the first 2 estates
Hey! It's our dude Lafayette, right?
even joined their cause.
He looks, maybe
Some
I'm
members
wrong.
of the first 2 estates
I don't know if OverSimplified is Lafayette looks different.
even joined their cause. Some of these men formed a radical new political party called the Jacobin Club and quickly became leading figures. While many members of the Third Estate simply wanted more equality, a growing number in this Jacobin faction...
Why does everyone in this scenario look like Alfred Hitchcock? They've all got the... I wish... I would have fit in back then.
would begin calling for something even
I heart
crazier.
Robespierre, tee-hee. It's rad to be radical. No girls allowed. Yep.
The removal of the king entirely. And this is where fear began to take hold. With such a volatile situation developing, everyone was afraid of something. The king feared his position was under threat, and he called in the military to take position around Paris. The Third Estate heard rumor of the gathering military force, and they feared the king was planning to round them up and arrest them. Maybe he'd even execute them. It also didn't help that the king had just dismissed France's popular finance minister, who had been trying to make reforms himself. It seemed the king was done negotiating. Fear, left unchecked, often boils over into anger, and anger detonates with violence. The angry people of Paris, after centuries of cruel inequality, harsh
I'm amazed it took centuries to boil over. In 2022, again, I'm from the future. In 2022, we go through all these stages in about an hour and a half.
With violence. The angry people of Paris, after centuries of cruel inequality, harsh oppression, even starvation, fearful of having their new movement for reform demolished so soon, decided that it was now or never to take action. Screw reform. They decided they'd do one better. How about revolution? The people of Paris, believing the French military was preparing to attack, decided they should arm themselves. The National Assembly announced the creation of a bourgeois militia, the National Guard, and immediately, many troops from the French military defected over to the revolutionary side. In the early hours of July 14th, 1789, a large crowd stormed and raided the Hotel des Invalides, a military hospital where they were able to secure a large number of rifles. The bad news was they weren't able to find any gunpowder for their new weapons. The good news was they knew exactly where to get some. A prison fortress and a symbol of royal tyranny towering over Paris, the Bastille. Mid-morning, the crowd gathered around the Bastille.
There's no... Oh my... And I always say that, right? Incredulously, there's no way. And it's only because, right, hindsight. Perfect hindsight vision. You would assume, like, perfect hindsight. Example, lower my camera because you can't see my awesome Mockingbird shirt. No, but you would assume that if you were fearing revolution, you would lock down the place you keep all the guns. Which either means that he wasn't fearing revolution or just didn't think to do that because he was, you know, a fat, ill-bred boy.
He demanded that the man in charge, Governor Delaunay, surrender the prison and hand over the gunpowder. Obviously, Governor Delaunay was like, no way. So he stalled for time by inviting a few members of the crowd in for negotiations. The crowd, still waiting outside, quickly became impatient, and before long, they stormed the fortress, taking on the French troops inside. Your Majesty, we've received word that the people have surrounded the Bastille. Governor Delaunay will hold them off. No need to worry. Actually, Your Majesty, it appears the crowd is now headed away from the Bastille. You see? What did I tell you? Clearly Governor Delaunay has defeated them and has them on the run. No need to worry. Your Majesty, isn't that Governor Delaunay's head on a pike?
Oh,
well,
dear God. I shouldn't be surprised that's revolutionary justice of the time. I'd been hoping he was gonna maybe defect, you know, and be out there in the streets dancing.
No need to worry. Your Majesty, isn't that Governor Delaunay's head on a pike? Well, clearly Governor Delaunay has taken on the form of a bodiless pike-head deity, and the people are so enamored with him, they're parading him around the city. No need to worry at all. When the National Assembly heard about
and he speeds away in a Porsche.
The violence that had taken place, they had two options. Either one, they denounce it and try to carry on the revolution using peaceful means, or two, they say, damn, you stuck his head on a pike? That's pretty hardcore. And we love
option
it.
Two,
Incidentally,
please, option
they
two.
went with option number 2. Some historians believe...
We always rewind for...
Or 2, they say, damn, you stuck his head on a pike? That's pretty hardcore. And we love it. Incidentally, they went with option number 2. Some historians believe this reaction paved the way for the utter violence and bloodshed that would become the legacy of the French Revolution.
Good Lord.
This widespread acceptance of violence during the revolution is also largely credited to the writings of a certain Jean-Paul Marat.
Dude, that is what it looks like. Good Lord. That is what it looks like when coffee takes Adderall.
Man of science with a horrible skin condition that kept him confined to a bathtub, he began writing a radical newspaper he affectionately named The Friend of the People. Citizens of France, be very afraid.
There's something about, I'm telling you, man, when coffee has Adderall, but there's something about him having the lavender candles, the life is a beach. All he's missing is one of those like eat, pray, love things up on the wall.
Given the chance, the king and the nobility won't hesitate to massacre us all. The solution is simple. Execute them. Kill every last one of them. Cut off 1,000 heads. And if that's not enough, cut off 1,000 more. Oh, hey, Mr. Squeaky.
Yeah.
What are you doing down there? You're so cute.
Yeah, he is.
Aw, I love you too, Mr. Squeaky. Mwah. Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. Kill them all. It became one of the most popular publications in Paris during the Revolution and succeeded in spreading ever-increasing fear and anger among the people. In August, leaders of the National Assembly, with help from a certain Thomas Jefferson, adopted the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, an incredible document that guaranteed liberty and equal rights to all men. And when I say men, I mean men. Despite its glaring shortcomings in gender equality, the massively influential declaration would go on to inspire the struggle for liberty and equality across the planet for centuries. However, back in France, the vast majority of the people weren't really so concerned with enlightened ideas of equality as much as they were concerned with the fact that they were still starving. Bread was still expensive as hell.
But why do frogs' legs have to be sexy? That's the one thing I'm not getting.
And hard to come by. The people felt that one reason nothing had been done yet about the crisis was because the king simply couldn't see the problem. He lived in Versailles, a full 20 kilometers southwest of Paris, and as a result, lived in comfort, separated from his dirty, stinking subjects. On October 5th, a crowd of women, 7,000 strong, decided they'd do something unprecedented. They decided they'd remove that separation and confront the king directly. The women marched all the way to the king's palace in Versailles.
Quite the ladies' man.
Along the way, the crowd continued to grow into the tens of thousands, and when they arrived, they demanded an audience with the king. What are those things outside the palace? They're poor people, Your Majesty. That's poor people? They say they're hungry. Hungry? Then let them eat cake. Wow. See,
that's where that comes from. I mean, I knew Marie Antoinette said it, but I didn't know that was when.
That BS that led to this whole mess in the first place. You're so out of touch. They're writhing around in the filth, breaking their back to barely scrape by, and they come to you demanding just the basic ability to feed themselves, and you think a slice of cake will sort them out? Well, then let them eat Taco Bell Crunchwrap Supreme.
Sponsor mention?
Wow. They're not that desperate. Members of the crowd actually managed to break into the palace with the intention of killing the queen, who narrowly escaped through a secret passage in her bedroom. The enraged mob killed several members of the royal guard and raised their heads on pikes, which, if you haven't noticed yet, is something they were quite fond of doing. The king had no choice but to
Apparently,
come
where
out...
did they get the idea? It's not, as far as I know, we didn't do that in the American Revolution.
And talk to the crowd. He agreed to accept his new position, sharing power with the revolutionary government, and to return to Paris with the crowd, removing the separation between king and subject. King Louis had a problem with people constantly raiding his palace, but one thing he didn't have a problem with was people raiding his computer, because he used...
Likes being the king, cake, my hair. Dislikes being the king, revolutionaries, and my wife's hair. Glorious.
NordVPN. If, like me, you don't like hackers stealing your data, password, bank deets, and girlfriend, then you...
I mean, I don't mind the bank part because they look in my bank and there's nothing there. You know what I'm saying? So then sometimes I get lucky. Sometimes a hacker hacks into my bank account, sees how little's there, feels bad for me, leaves me a little something something. It's a nice, you know.
You need to check out NordVPN. With over 5,000 servers in 60 countries, it allows you to surf the net anonymously and safely with no personal data logging. It's super easy to use. You can take a trip to a server in Japan with just the click of a button.
I am unfortunately an ExpressVPN guy.
And modified and get an amazing 70. So again, that's NordVPN. My channel. So again, that's...
All right, I always leave it here for a second. NordVPN, Oversimplified. Hook him up, get him a little payday. His network, Oversimplified, usually claims these videos. So he doesn't get paid for them because a lot of people are like, you're stealing other people's videos. I'm like, no, I steal Disney's videos. I don't steal Oversimplified's. He gets paid for those. There's a difference. All right, and then I'm guessing we get the little primer here for next time. I'm making sure there's no end jokes. This was fun. Okay, so I honestly, heading into this, I said it a little bit at the beginning, but I was not prepared for this. I was more prepared for Napoleonic Wars because a lot of you said that was the thing I needed to do. But then again, because of your comments, it was like, oh, you got to do the French Revolution first. So that's what we checked out today. And in a few days, I'll get part 2 of this. And then next week, hopefully, we'll get into Napoleonic Wars. But only if it's what you want to see. So if you do, leave a comment down below. Let me know, all that good stuff. And it is wild. Again, Oversimplified improves every video. Like, looking through his timeline of when they got posted, they're god tier. And they're so cool to watch. And yeah, I'm just happy you guys switched me onto him in the first place. So take care, as always, friends. And apparently, I'll see you for the next revolution.